Hey, what up squad, it's your boy K-Flow. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about lightning. Well actually, I meant to say lighting, but it's not as sexy on camera. Shout out to my boy Humphreys, big fan of yours.
All the tools and materials used in this video will be on my Amazon affiliate storefront. You can find that at amazon.kflow-crib.com.
Anyways, in this video, I'm going to show you how I installed a whole integrated lighting system using a gang box. And here's what the final installed product looks like. So let's get to the try. So let's turn everything on now, guys. First thing we'll do is turn on the park light. Now we'll turn on the bumper, the roof, the Raptor lights. And for fun, let's turn on the headlights and turn on the fog lamps on the bumper. So this video is more of an overview of how the whole system is mounted and wired. So use this as a guideline, or you can copy it as is. And at the end of the video, I will be addressing some concerns that might come up. So just make sure you stick around till the end of the video, and don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button if you haven't yet. Now let's get to the garage. So here's what we have inside the kit. This is the wiring diagram, the relay box with all these wires attached to it. And then we actually have the controller, some hardware and double stick tape, and the label that goes towards that controller, along with some extra zip ties. So these are all the positive connections that go to our accessories. This has to be plugged into the negative chassis of the truck. So this is the red positive terminal that goes to the battery, and this is the accessory wire that tells the relay box to turn on. And this part of the harness goes into that relay controller. So mounting these fog lights are actually pretty easy. I undid the nut, the lock wash, and the washer, and this stud, it goes right onto one of these mounting holes on the ARB bumper. These we tighten down with a 17mm socket. The angle of these fog lights do need to be adjusted, so once you're happy with the overall shooting angle of these things, we can tighten down that side bolt using a 12mm socket. And there's a bolt on both sides of these. So this is what the light bar looks like mounted on that print suit rack, guys. And the way I have it mounted is I actually took one of these crossbars and mounted that crossbar vertical on these two holes here, so that I can have that light bar set lower. Because what I really wanted at the end was this light bar to sit below the actual cross beams, so that if I have anything laying across the top, the light bar isn't going to be hit by it. Now for the bracket itself, it's just a regular L bracket, guys, that's mounted, that came with this light bar. This L bracket is mounted to this cross beam, which is a regular 1/4-20 nut and bolt inserted in one of the grooves. So as far as how those Raptor lights are mounted, they're pretty much just self-clipped right into the holes of the grill. And all you do is literally just push it in place. Now with doing any type of electrical lighting, you definitely need a very solid ground. So I used this bus bar onto the existing threaded holes on the passenger side of the engine bay, which makes it a really good ground. It's awesome because I didn't have to create any new grounding points. And that bus bar didn't require any type of modification. Turn it to its side like this, and then use the existing holes to mount it. This is the exact ones that I used, guys. These are all M6-1 hardware. And the bus bar was in this box, and I'll also link that in the description if you want to use the exact one. And this bus bar I got from Lowe's. So for further clarification guys, this is an AC bus bar. And what I like about doing this as a grounding system is that you don't need to solder any connections when you're actually wiring this whole thing. All it is those screws clamped onto the wires that you want to ground. And in this case, these are all the negatives of every piece of the lighting system that you have. The only advice I have when it comes to mounting it onto the truck is you gotta make sure you pull out all of those set screws and put some anti-seize on the threads, because you don't want any of those threads to seize up. And that's exactly what I did before mounting that onto that engine bay. Alright guys, I'm going to do a quick breakdown of how all the wires are hooked up. Pardon the wind because it is a little bit windy today. But we'll start out with the gang box. So there's the gang box guys. It's mounted on there with the sheet metal screws right on the subframe. The negative is connected to that bus, and that bus is connected directly to the subframe using the existing threaded holes. Now the positive from that gang bus wraps out behind this washer fluid underneath this portion of the subframe, underneath the shroud, and it's zip tied there so it's secured in place. That positive then continues to the positive of the battery. Now that main red trigger wire from that kit now goes down, connects there onto the park light. So as soon as I turn the park light on, it turns on the whole system. Now as far as the controller wire goes, it comes from that gang box and wraps back around, follows against this wall here, and is zip tied following that wire bundle all the way across to the driver's side. And here's a close-up guys. As you can see, it's just following along that same wire bundle all the way down, and then continues on here into the driver's side, right into this grommet here where the rest of the wire bundle goes. Now you can see it's that black ribbon cable right next to that bundle of wires. It comes up basically behind this panel here and is routed up here and around and into the controller box. Now as far as adhesion goes, here's a quick tip guys. You'd want to use adhesion promoter and VHB tape, and that will stick onto anything, even at high temperatures. When the dash gets really hot, that will stay on there, trust me. Now as far as the light bar goes, all the wire comes down from the A-pillar right next to this fender here. The negative is then routed downwards and into this negative bus bar. The positive continues behind the gang box here and is crimped on to the number 1 crimp connection here, right onto the gang box. The gang box wires are conveniently labeled so that you know which switch goes to which wire. So number 1 is where the light bar was crimped onto. Now as far as the IPF lights go, those are both wired in parallel right behind this grill, and it's routed upwards behind the front headlight here and behind this washer fluid. Again, the negative is routed behind that gang box and into the negative bus right there, and the positive connection is crimped onto number 2. Now the Raptor lights are also all wired in parallel. It's all zip tied to that bracket, follows behind this front headlight again, and behind the washer fluid, the negative goes into that negative bus, and the positive is crimped on number 3. So here's just a few advice to make sure all the wiring is clean. I would suggest definitely following the existing wire runs and then just zip tying to it. It'll make everything look very integrated, and use zip ties as much as possible, guys. If you have something that you want to zip tie against the walls of the engine bay, you can definitely use one of these 3M mounts. I'll link them in the description below. So it actually allows the zip tie to be mounted up against the wall with adhesive, and you can have the wire bundle pretty much run very neatly against any of the walls of the engine bay. There's also a few other things I wanted to talk about with this whole gang box setup. And number one, I really like this gang box setup because the fuses and the relays are replaceable. There's a few of these relay boxes that the relays themselves are integrated into the whole system, meaning that it's already hard mounted with epoxy right onto the gang box. And I don't really like that. I know relays are supposed to last like 1 million or so cycles, but they do fail and they can fail. So if, at least for me, if I can replace them, it makes life so much easier. And I don't have to rip out the whole thing in order to address the one failed relay. This system allows you to install more lights and more accessories without having to do any soldering. This makes it really easy and really quick. The negative is clamped onto that negative bus, and the positive is just crimped right on. That's it, it's easy. So in this video, guys, I know I did more of a how-to and how everything works as opposed to the science behind it. And if you want more of the science of the chassis rounding, relays, fuses, and all that stuff, let me know, because I can also put that together so it's better understanding for you guys who are not like super electrical savvy. So now let's address some concerns, guys. I know a few of you will probably say that this is exposed metal, there is going to be corrosion, it's gonna rust. So let's address that now. The bus bar is galvanized, so it's corrosion resistant. And copper wires that you're hooking up on there is naturally corrosion resistant. I mean, look at copper pipes. That's what's used in buildings for running water lines throughout the whole building. And if you wanted to install more than 6 accessories, you can always install another gang box and use that same exact negative bus. Another concern that might come up is that I have a huge exposed ground bar. And if you think about it, all the bolt heads, anything that's connected to the chassis is grounded. Those bolt heads alone are exposed grounds. So that's just what chassis grounding is about. I mean, again, I can go into another whole video on electrical systems, but I'm not gonna do that here, so at least this video stays pretty short and concise. So that's pretty much it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you smash that like and subscribe button. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And let me know what you think about this whole integrated lighting system. I know I still have 3 more slots to fill, and I'd like to get your opinion. What do you guys think I should install on those last 3 slots? So until next time, guys, peace out.